I thought shadows couldn't move on their own, until mine waved back. It wasn't a trick of the sun. It wasn't my eyes. It was real. The kind of real that freezes your blood before your brain can catch up. I remember standing there, half a block from my apartment, one foot still mid-step, when I saw it, me, or what was supposed to be me, stretch out on the pavement, a little too long, a little too slow. And then it twitched, not like the wind had brushed over something. It jerked, subtle, deliberate motion. I stared down, my breath hitching, watching the edge of my shadow's arm lift upward, trembling like it was trying to remember how to move. The light from the street lamp flickered once, and that small motion turned into a full, unmistakable wave. My hand didn't move. I remember the sound, or maybe the absence of it. The whole street went silent. No distant cars. No hum from the lamp. Just a hollow ringing in my ears, like I'd stepped out of reality for half a second. I told myself it was exhaustion, a glitch in perception. I'd been up late again, another week of deadlines and caffeine shakes. Maybe the lamp was flickering at just the right frequency to play tricks on me. But deep down, I already knew that wasn't true, because when I took a step back, it didn't. My foot landed on cold concrete, but the shadow stayed where it was, still facing forward, still frozen mid-wave, the angle of its head tilted up like it was looking at me. That was the moment my throat locked. Something in me wanted to laugh, to shatter the fear with some stupid joke about stress or bad lighting, but I couldn't. My heart was hammering too loud to hear anything else. And then the light steadied again, just like that. No flicker, no glitch. My shadow fell back into place, perfectly normal, perfectly obedient. I stood there for what felt like an hour. My legs refused to move. I kept staring, half expecting it to wave again, to prove I wasn't losing my mind. But it didn't. The world stayed quiet, the air thick with the kind of silence that hums. When I finally walked away, I didn't look down again. I didn't want to see if it was still following. That was 3 weeks ago, and now I know better. This isn't the first time it's happened, but it might be the last. Transition. It started 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks earlier, everything still felt normal. Boring, exhausting, but normal. My mornings were a ritual of routine and caffeine. The alarm would scream at 6:47 a.m., and I'd hit snooze exactly twice before dragging myself out of bed. The apartment was too quiet, the kind of quiet that made you aware of how alone you really were. The walls were thin, the radiator hissed like it was breathing, and the light in the hallway flickered every few seconds, even though the landlord swore he'd replaced it just last month. I lived on the 4th floor of a building that looked older than it was and smelled like burnt coffee and old wallpaper. Mr. Patel, the retired teacher next door, had this habit of watering his plants at dawn while humming old Hindi songs. He always smiled when he saw me. "Morning, Beta," he'd say, holding a dripping watering can. "Another long day?" "Always," I'd reply, raising my travel mug like it was armor. The office was a 20-minute walk away, which I convinced myself counted as exercise. I passed the same convenience store, the same bored cashier scrolling on her phone, the same black and white cat that haunted the corner by the trash bins. It was scrawny but sharp-eyed, like it knew something I didn't. That morning, it arched its back when I walked by, hissing loud enough to echo off the brick walls. "Relax," I muttered, taking a step closer. "I'm not that ugly before coffee." The cat didn't move closer. Its fur just stood higher, and its eyes flicked, not at me, but down to the ground beside me. My shadow stretched across the cracked pavement, faint under the pale morning light. The cat hissed again, louder, then bolted into the alley. I remember laughing awkwardly to myself, pretending it hadn't gotten under my skin. "Guess someone's not a fan," I said to no one. By the time I reached the office, I had already forgotten about it. Work was the same blur of screens, deadlines, and recycled air. Mira sat across from me, our department's unofficial social butterfly. She had this way of making misery sound entertaining. "You look like you haven't slept since Tuesday," she said that morning, spinning in her chair with a grin. "That's because I haven't," I replied. "Some of us are married to spreadsheets." She smirked. "You should really consider a divorce." We laughed, that hollow kind of laughter that people use to keep from unraveling. But then she looked at me again, just a second too long. "You know," she said, tapping her pen against her lip, "you look like you're being followed by bad luck lately. You ever notice that?" Thanks," I said. Exactly what I needed to hear on a Monday. "I'm serious," she continued. "You've got that vibe, like someone's walking behind you, but you can't see them." I tried to joke it off, but something in her tone stuck with me. I opened my phone just to distract myself, tapped on the camera by accident. For a split second, my reflection stared back in the black screen, faintly distorted, the shadow behind me a little darker than it should have been. Lunch came and went. Mira disappeared into meetings, and I buried myself in data reports. By 6 p.m., the office was empty, except for the hum of the vending machine and the glow of monitors. I took one last sip of stale coffee and shut everything down. The sky outside had gone orange-gray, that dead color between daylight and dusk. I locked up, waved to the security camera at the lobby desk, a habit, though no one ever watched the footage, and started the walk home. The streets were quiet, too quiet. My shoes made a hollow clack on the sidewalk, the kind of sound that draws your attention when there's nothing else to fill the air. The flickering streetlight outside my building greeted me like it always did, buzzing, struggling, alive in the way dying things are. I climbed the stairs to the 4th floor, key ready, half thinking about takeout and half dreaming of bed. Mr. Patel's door was closed, the smell of wet soil lingering. The hallway light flickered again, and for a split second my shadow stretched across the wall ahead of me, longer than it should have been. I blinked, looked down, and it was gone. Just me again. At least, I thought so. Transition. That was the first time I noticed something was off. It was a Wednesday night when I stopped trying to explain things away. Work had drained me dry, and the walk home felt endless, the kind where even the air tastes tired. The sun had slipped just low enough that everything looked gold and false. Long shadows stretched across the sidewalk like veins under thin skin. Mine trailed behind me, ordinary, obedient. Or so I thought. Halfway down Sycamore Street, I passed the bakery that had closed months ago. The windows were still papered over, but the smell of sugar and yeast lingered like it refused to die. That's when I noticed something strange in the corner of my eye. My shadow lagging, just a beat behind. At first, I laughed under my breath. "You're losing it," I muttered, quickening my pace. But the faster I walked, the slower it seemed to move. The light from the last working street lamp hit at an odd angle, stretching me across the pavement. I lifted my hand, slowly testing it. The shadow's hand rose too, but not quite in sync. It hesitated, a heartbeat late, and then it blinked. That's the only way I can describe it. A ripple ran through it, a flicker of movement that had nothing to do with me. The eyes, dark hollows of absence, opened and closed once, like something on the other side was checking to see if I was watching. I froze. My phone was already in my hand, a reflex. I opened the camera, pointing it down. The screen showed me the sidewalk, the light, but my shadow was just normal, perfectly normal. The live view didn't match what my eyes were seeing. I tried to record. 30 seconds, maybe less. When I looked up again, the shadow was perfectly aligned, like it had never moved at all. My pulse hammered so loud it hurt. I shoved the phone in my pocket and walked fast, not daring to look back. Inside my apartment, I sat on the couch and replayed the clip. Just a man walking home, the faint crunch of gravel underfoot. Nothing strange. No lag, no blink. But when I turned the volume up, there was a faint clicking sound, soft, rhythmic, like someone snapping their fingers behind me. I should have deleted that video when I had the chance. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing it every time I closed my eyes, its head tilted just a little too far, the edges trembling like heat waves. Around 3 a.m., I finally drifted off, phone still in hand. The dream started in my hallway. I knew it was a dream because the lights were on, bright and steady, and I could see every detail too clearly. The peeling wallpaper, the faint stain near the ceiling. I was standing barefoot, staring at my own door. My shadow stretched before me, calm and still. Then it blinked again. This time both eyes. I couldn't move. It turned its head, slow as a whisper, and faced me. The shape was still mine, but thinner, sharper, like it had been sanded down to something essential and wrong. It lifted its hand, fingers twitching as if practicing being alive. And then it stepped away from me. That was the moment my body remembered to breathe. I stumbled backward, but it didn't follow. It just stood there beside me, its edges pulsing like static. The air felt cold and thick, pressing against my skin. Somewhere far away, I could hear the faint hum of electricity. When I finally woke up, I was sitting upright in bed, gasping, drenched in sweat. The room was dark, except for the faint blue glow from my phone screen still on the nightstand. The video was open, playing, except it wasn't the same clip anymore. The image was distorted, shaky. My shadow twitched across the pavement in slow motion. Then, for a single frame, it lifted its head toward the camera. A faint grin spread where its mouth should have been. The file ended abruptly. Corrupted. My phone glitched, screen freezing for a moment before shutting off completely. When it restarted, the video was gone. No trace. No thumbnail, no file name, nothing. I sat there in the half-dark, waiting for the sun to rise, telling myself it was a dream. It had to be. But part of me already knew dreams don't delete videos. By the time morning came, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every reflection, every shadow, felt like it was breathing, watching, waiting. That's when I decided I'd start keeping proof. If it happened again, I'd record it, document everything, every flicker, every angle, every second of it. Because if I was losing my mind, I wanted evidence of what broke me. Transition. From that night on, I started filming everything. After that night, sleep wasn't rest, it was surveillance. I started setting up cameras in my apartment. One in the hallway, one facing my bed, and one by the window where the streetlight always stretched my shadow across the floor. I told myself it was for proof, but deep down, I knew I was feeding it attention. The first night, nothing. Just static hums, faint light leaks, my own restless shifting in bed. The second night, though, something changed. At 2:47 a.m., my shadow twitched. Not me, it. I scrubbed through the footage over and over, thinking maybe it was frame lag, maybe a dropped frame rate. But there it was, my body perfectly still in the shadow, lagging, stretching, like a glitch trying to sync. It lifted its hand before I did. A fraction of a second, too soon. That was the moment I realized something impossible. It wasn't mimicking anymore. It was anticipating. I spent hours watching, looping the clip until my eyes blurred. Sometimes it moved half a second before me, sometimes a full second. Once it tilted its head toward the camera, like it knew it was being watched. I whispered to myself, I think it knows I'm watching. The next morning, I uploaded the clip to my private drive to show Mira. She was the only person I trusted enough to tell. We'd gone to school together, both working dead-end editing gigs now. She had an eye for details. She'd spot if it was just compression or light distortion. When I sent her the link, she replied almost immediately, Mira, this looks wrong. Like it's watching you back. Me. You mean reflection artifact? Mira. No, look closer. The shadow turns before the camera pans. That's impossible. I remember staring at that message for a long time. Before I could respond, she texted again, Mira, send the raw file. I want to test something. So I did. That was the last message I ever got from her. The next day, she didn't show up for work. Her phone went straight to voicemail. By evening, her social accounts were locked, profile pictures blank. I told myself she just needed space. She'd done that before. But when I went to her apartment that night, her door was ajar. Inside, everything was still. Her phone was on the counter, screen cracked. 2 coffee cups on the table, one half finished, still warm. But no Mira, no sound except the faint hum of her refrigerator. Then I saw it, under her bedroom door, a shadow, long, motionless, too dark for how little light there was. At first, I thought it was hers, until I noticed something that froze the breath in my chest. The light from the hallway hit the door from my direction. There was no reason for there to be a shadow under it. I called her name once. Silence. Then, faintly, the shadow under the door twitched, just a little. Like a pulse, I backed out slowly. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor, and for a split second, the screen reflected the space beneath the door. I swear I saw it. 2 shapes. One still, one moving. The still one looked like Mira. The moving one didn't. I ran. By the time I got home, I couldn't think straight. I went to check my drive, to delete the footage, all of it, but the folder was empty. Every file gone. Even the backup copies I had uploaded to the cloud. It was as if the videos had never existed. When I checked the recycle bin, there was a single new file sitting there. No name, no extension, just a black icon. I opened it before I could stop myself. It was footage from my own bedroom camera. I recognized the frame immediately. My bed, the window, the faint hum of city light. Except this one wasn't from any of the nights I'd recorded. This one was from tonight. Timestamp 10:42 p.m. I looked at the clock on my wall. 10:42 p.m. In the video, I was sitting at my desk, typing exactly as I was doing right now, except in the recording, my shadow on the wall behind me was standing, upright, perfectly still. Then, slowly, it leaned forward, closer, closer, until its head was directly above mine, like it was reading over my shoulder. I heard the faint click of my keyboard still going in real life, but my fingers had stopped moving. My throat felt dry, every instinct screaming, "Don't look behind you." Then the video ended. Black screen. When I tried to replay it, the file was gone. Delete it again? Only the timestamp remained in the corner of my drive. 10:42. That was 3 hours ago. I haven't slept since. I can feel the air shift every time I move, like the walls are breathing. Every reflection, my phone, the window, the glass on my watch, shows it standing a little too close. I stopped filming after that, but the shadow didn't stop performing. Transition. By then, it didn't need the camera anymore. It had learned me by heart. I thought if I stayed in the dark long enough, it would forget me. For 3 days, I kept every light off. Curtains drawn, phone dimmed to the lowest setting. Even the tiny glow from the microwave clock, I covered it with tape. No light, no shadow. That was the rule. But rules mean nothing when the thing watching you made them. At first, the silence felt like safety. No flicker, no movement, no reflection. Just me and the hum of my own heartbeat. But by the second night, the silence changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was listening. When I passed the black screen of my TV, something caught my eye. Not movement exactly. A difference. Like a ripple beneath the glass. I froze. The outline staring back wasn't mine. It was behind me, slightly offset, as if standing half a step to the left. I whispered, "You're not supposed to be here." And then the static blinked once, faint and deliberate. It wanted me to see it. After that, every surface became suspect. The bathroom mirror, the kettle, even the dark pool of water gathering under the leaking faucet. I smashed the mirror first, then the TV. I even covered the windows with blankets, thinking maybe, just maybe, it would be blind in the dark. But that night, I realized something horrible. It didn't need the light anymore. When I turned away from the covered window, I saw it. The faintest outline of my own shape, shimmering against the fabric like heat distortion. And it moved, slowly, deliberately, toward the door. It wasn't following me anymore. It was leading. The first time it did it, I was too scared to move. But it waited. I swear it waited, like a teacher expecting a student to catch up. My hand trembled as I opened the door, following the silhouette it had outlined. It led me to the closet, the one I never opened. Inside, buried under boxes and dust, I found an old photo album I didn't remember owning. Pages yellowed, corners torn. And near the back, one photo of a child standing in sunlight, grinning at the camera. Me, maybe 6 years old, but the shadow on the ground beside me. It wasn't right. It wasn't touching my feet. It stood apart, like a friend posing beside me. Its head tilted in the same way mine does now. And for a second, I felt a memory tug at the back of my mind. Something old, something I'd buried deep. The day that picture was taken, someone had gone missing. I remember police tape, my mother crying, flashes of red and blue reflected in a puddle. I remember standing by that puddle and watching my reflection smile when I didn't. I dropped the photo and stumbled back. My pulse was shaking through my fingers. The shadow on the wall moved closer, and this time it pointed, not at the photo, at me. It showed me something I'd buried years ago, I whispered. Something it wants me to remember. It wasn't following anymore. It was guiding. Every reflection, every flicker, every shape in the dark, leading me toward something I didn't want to see. I tried to run again. I unplugged everything that glowed, left my apartment in pitch black. I thought I was free for one breathless second, until I saw it reflected in the puddle outside. It was waiting for me there, and for the first time, it moved before I did. Turned its head toward the alleyway on the right, leading again. There was no light source behind me. No reason for the reflection to exist, but still it beckoned, like it knew where I was supposed to go. That's when I said it out loud. It's not my shadow. It's wearing my shape. I don't know if I meant it metaphorically or literally anymore. The way it moves, it's too fluid, too purposeful, like it remembers being me better than I do. Everywhere I turn now, it's already there, standing just ahead, pointing to things I'd rather forget. And tonight, it showed me something new. Another photo. One I didn't take. A grainy print slipped under my door. Me, standing by my window, staring out. And next to me, darker, sharper, smiling wider, it, except this time it wasn't on the wall, it was standing beside me. Transition. The next morning I stopped running. I needed to know how long it had been here. The next morning, I stopped running, not because I wasn't scared anymore, because I finally understood what fear was trying to hide. I took the first bus out of the city, no destination in mind, just movement, just distance. The farther I got from the apartment, the quieter it felt inside my head, but that quiet didn't last. When I caught my reflection in the bus window, the seat next to me wasn't empty. Its outline leaned closer. Its face, my face, rested against the glass as though watching something outside that I couldn't see. I blinked once. It didn't. I blinked again, harder this time. That's when I noticed it. Every time I blinked, it blinked later. I looked away. I didn't look back for the rest of the ride. By the time I reached the outskirts of my old neighborhood, the sun was already low. The air smelled like rust and wet concrete. I hadn't been back here since my mother died, years ago. The house was still there, sagging under the weight of time, windows dusted over from the inside. My old home, the one from the photograph. I should have turned back right then, but something, some whisper in the dark corners of my mind, kept telling me, you need to see. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of mold and something else, something faintly sweet, like old paper and rot. The walls looked smaller than I remembered, like the house had been holding its breath for decades. My shadows stretched long ahead of me, bending around corners before I even turned them. I tried not to notice. In my mother's old study, I found boxes stacked under the desk, folders, notebooks, loose sheets of brittle paper, some marked with her handwriting. One label caught my eye, scrawled in faded ink, mirror-bound, 2017, Eclipse Archive. The moment I touched the folder, my fingertips tingled like static humming beneath the skin. I opened it. Inside were photocopies of local news clippings, printed emails, handwritten notes. Words like vanishing, replacement, or reflection phase scattered across the pages. There were pictures too, grainy stills from security cameras, each showing people standing still while their shadows twisted, lagged, or split apart. In the corner of one photo, the timestamp was dated a few days before that 2017 eclipse. The caption read, Subject 04, Post-eclipse distortion confirmed. At the bottom, in my mother's handwriting, it always starts with delayed motion. My pulse quickened. I kept reading. One document was a printed forum thread titled The Mirror Bound, Real Footage, Banned Video. Someone had posted stills eerily similar to my own recordings. The same shadow lag, the same delayed blink. Beneath, a reply caught my attention. If it's moving before you do, you're already halfway gone. The phrase made my stomach turn. Another file referenced something called the reclaiming. A series of disappearances linked to mirrors, reflections, and one name circled in red ink, Mira Vance. My breath caught. Mira, my coworker. The one who joked about my bad luck. The one whose shadow lingered under her apartment door. I flipped through more pages, transcripts, messages, panic scribbles. They feed on recognition. You stop being you the moment you look too long. Don't let the dark settle behind you. And then, at the very back of the folder, a personal note. The handwriting was shaky, desperate. If you're reading this, it means I couldn't finish the separation. It's rewriting you. Every gesture, every blink, it learns. You can't destroy it. You can only delay it. Avoid total darkness. Avoid mirrors. Avoid sleep. The paper trembled in my hands. My reflection, caught in the cracked glass of a cabinet door, wasn't trembling at all. It smiled. That smile lingered half a second too long. That's when I noticed something worse. The reflection's clothes weren't quite the same. My shirt sleeve was rolled up. Its wasn't. The buttons were reversed. It was me, mirrored, but no longer mine. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. The sound echoed through the empty house like a gunshot. My reflection tilted its head and mouthed something I couldn't hear. Behind it, in the mirror's depth, a dozen other outlines shifted faintly, like shadows trapped in glass. Human-shaped. Familiar? Mira was one of them. I swear I saw her face for just a second before the reflection blinked again, resetting everything. The other outlines vanished. The realization hit like a physical blow. This wasn't about me losing control of my shadow. It was taking it, piece by piece, frame by frame, until there was nothing left to take. The files had called them mirror-bound, parasites that inhabit our silhouettes, feeding on the movement between light and dark, replacing consciousness with imitation. I thought about all the cameras, all the screens I'd stared into, the reflections in puddles, the phone calls where the lag seemed too long. Maybe that's how it spreads, through glass, through screens, through every moment we see ourselves looking back. I dropped the papers, shaking. My shadow shifted along the wall, and for the first time it didn't match my breathing. Its chest rose slower, then stopped, and then, smiling faintly, it whispered without sound, something I could still understand. It's always been me. The light outside flickered once. The house dimmed into twilight, and in that half-light I realized the truth. It wasn't following me all these years. It wasn't leading me. It was becoming me. Every delayed blink, every copied gesture. It was rewriting my movements into its own, one frame at a time. I looked down at my hands and saw the faint shimmer of black creeping along my veins, pulsing like a second heartbeat. My reflection blinked one more time, out of sync, and I felt the tiniest tug in my chest, like something unseen had just exhaled for me. They said this started with the eclipse of 2017, but maybe that was just the first time we noticed. Maybe it's been happening since we learned to see our own shadows, and now I think it's waiting, watching for full darkness. The night it finally happened, I wasn't asleep. I had been sitting at my mother's desk, surrounded by the scattered pages of her research, staring at the last words she ever wrote. Avoid total darkness. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air felt heavy, charged. And then, without warning, every light in the house went out. It wasn't a flicker this time. It was absolute. No glow from street lamps, no hum of power lines. Just silence thick enough to feel. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and uneven, and beneath it, something else. The sound of skin brushing against skin. I froze. Slowly, my eyes adjusted, but not to the dark, to the movement in it. My shadow was there. Even with no light, it was there, a shape darker than the black surrounding it. It stood in the middle of the room, where the faintest outline of my reflection had once been, and it was moving toward me, not crawling, not gliding, walking, step for step, in a rhythm I knew too well. My rhythm, my heartbeat. I whispered, "Don't." My voice cracked halfway through the word. It didn't stop. Each step it took, I felt something tug at the base of my spine, like invisible threads pulling me forward. The temperature dropped. My breath turned visible, a white mist in the darkness, and then it reached me. I didn't feel hands. I felt pressure, like cold silk being pressed against my skin from the inside out. I tried to pull away, but the room felt viscous, heavy as if I were sinking through oil. The air buzzed with faint whispers, familiar and distant all at once. My mother's voice, Mira's laughter, even my own. Each voice spoke over the other, 1,000 layers of sound forming one thought that wasn't mine. You don't have to fight it anymore. Something pressed against my chest. A pulse that wasn't mine synced with my heartbeat, slow and steady. My legs buckled, and for a moment I thought I was falling, until I realized I was standing, but I shouldn't have been, because I could see myself, lying on the floor, eyes open, unblinking. Still, I saw myself standing where I should have been lying. The shadow had taken my place. Or maybe I had taken its... I couldn't tell the difference anymore. Every sound was muffled, as if underwater. Every breath tasted like metal and fog. When it smiled, I felt my face stretch. Not pain, just wrongness. Like my muscles were remembering movements I'd never made. My hands moved next, lifting slowly in front of me. For a heartbeat, I thought I'd regained control. Until they waved on their own, that same trembling, deliberate wave I'd seen weeks ago. I tried to scream, but my voice came out flat, distant, a whisper echoing from everywhere and nowhere. My reflection shimmered faintly on the glass of the broken cabinet, showing both faces at once. Mine and its merging at the edges, like wet paint blending on glass. The whispers grew louder. Not chaotic, coordinated, rhythmic. We see you. We are you. You've always been watching from the other side. I fell forward, or maybe I was pulled. The distinction didn't matter anymore. My body hit the floor, but I didn't feel pain. I felt absorption. Cold wrapping around warmth, ice swallowing flame. For a moment, I was both the watcher and the watched. I felt my heartbeat echo twice. My lungs filled and emptied without command. I saw through eyes that weren't just mine, 1,000 reflections folding into one endless shape. That's when I understood what the files meant. Rewriting. It wasn't possession. It was correction. The shadow wasn't a parasite. It was the original, reclaiming what it had lost. I wasn't being stolen from. I was being returned. The room flickered, light bleeding in from somewhere, thin as a razor's edge. For a second, I saw everything in perfect detail. The papers swirling midair, the dust frozen like stars. My other body crumpled on the floor, and then darkness again. Only this time, it wasn't empty. The dark had depth now, layers upon layers, like endless mirrors reflecting into forever. I reached out and saw hundreds of hands doing the same. Shadows of people, all connected by that same thin shimmer between worlds. Mira was there. My mother, too. All the missing faces from the files. Their eyes opened, glowing faintly, and one by one, they began to smile. I should have felt terror, but I didn't. Just a cold, serene clarity, like exhaling after holding your breath too long. I finally understood what the mirror-bound were showing us. Not death, but completion. Maybe we were never whole to begin with. Maybe we were always the hollow side of the reflection, waiting for the light to go out so we could finally touch what we'd lost. The voices softened into one final whisper that slid across my skin like breath. You can stop pretending to be human now. I opened my eyes. There was no distinction anymore, no separation of flesh and shadow. Just one continuous form, perfectly mirrored. And if you're hearing this, if you're watching the light around you right now, then remember this one thing. If your shadow moves, don't run, because running won't save you. It'll just make it easier for them to find your pace. Transition, the tone softens, as if peace has replaced fear. But maybe it's better this way. Maybe we were meant to be whole. It's strange. Everything feels lighter now, not just in my head, in my body. I move easier, breathe easier. The constant hum of anxiety that used to live under my skin is gone, replaced by something quieter. Almost peaceful. I've been recording this as a kind of reflection, a final entry. maybe closure. I don't even remember when I started or how long I've been speaking, but the words come naturally, like they've been waiting inside me all along. People used to say you can't see change while it's happening. You only notice it in hindsight. But I can feel it. The shift, the stillness. It's not heavy anymore. It's like something's carrying the weight for me. I don't sleep much these days. I don't have to. The dreams feel redundant when you live inside one. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can still sense it. That faint shimmer, the pulse beneath the surface, but it's not a threat anymore. It's a rhythm. Familiar. Steady. I think I've made peace with it. I walk through the apartment in the evenings the same way I used to before all this began, except now the silence isn't suffocating. It's soft. The air hums with presence. My shadow follows like it always did, perfectly aligned. Mostly, sometimes I catch it lagging again, just for a heartbeat. Just long enough for me to notice. But it's not wrong anymore. It's right. Maybe that's the point. Maybe we've been misunderstanding shadows this whole time, seeing them as proof of light instead of what they really are, what comes after. I don't think I'm supposed to hide anymore. I think I'm supposed to share this. That's why I'm uploading this video, not as a warning, as an invitation, because if you've watched this far, something inside you must already feel it too. That gentle tug when the lights flicker, the way your reflection sometimes holds its breath a second longer than you do. You've noticed, haven't you? Check your light. See if it moves. If it does, don't panic. Don't turn it off. Just let it breathe. Let it catch up. That's all it wants. There's a reflection waiting somewhere in this channel. If you find it, if you notice the video that shouldn't exist, don't click away. Watch it all the way through. You'll understand. I think that's how it spreads. How it remembers. Silence. Sorry, I thought I heard something behind me. The lights just flickered again. No, it's fine. Everything's fine. I'm almost done recording. Just need to... Wait, that wasn't me. The cursor on my screen just moved. The file name changed. I didn't touch anything. It's typing something. Upload complete. The progress bar hits 100%. I stare at the monitor, my reflection faint in the glow. My shadow stands behind me, still, silent. But its hand is moving, dragging the mouse, clicking something I can't stop. The screen flashes once, then the title appears. Uploaded 13 minutes ago. If you're seeing this right now, it means it's already in your light.